After that, his colleagues, if they wish to speak, they will speak, and then we will follow it up with a Q&A session. Dr. Dugal.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to learn.
Sir, mic on.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, sir, for giving this opportunity, Mr. Narayan, Mr. Soli, distinguished members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. When you do a conference which is already in its 10th year, then obviously you have a lot of ideas and a lot of thought processes that come to your attention. And when it talks about cyber issues, then clearly you have to realize that every year's conference is a different conference altogether. The reason is very simple. Cyber has become an integral part of our lives, but we have not yet reached the final level of growth and evolution of cyberspace or the cyber ecosystem is concerned. Every day, new developments are taking place, new technologies. So each year, we bring this conference, the international conference. This year is the 10th year, the 10th edition of this conference, and we are delighted that we are associating ourselves with the support of the Foreign Correspondents Club of South Asia. This is a unique kind of a conference. Just to give you a peep, we began our journey 2014, and the journey began with just a small half-day conference on cyber law and cybercrime. As we began growing, we started realizing that cybersecurity is becoming a very important aspect of our lives. So from November 2014, we started this international conference on cyber law, cybercrime, and cybersecurity. Each year, we've been having different themes. And when I look at Internet of 2014 versus Internet and cyberspace of 2023, these are two distinctive milestones completely. In fact, today, you can't even recognize that this is the Internet, which has now evolved, if you were talking about 2014. So each year, we decided to have a distinctive focus area, a theme for the conference, and we would invite stakeholders globally. First and foremost, this is not a legal conference. This is the world's authoritative conference on cyber law, cybercrime, and cybersecurity. And it's over a period of time evolved to demonstrate India's thought leadership in cyber issues. It's a multi-stakeholder conference in the sense that we invite stakeholders from across the ecosystem, whether it's the government, the law enforcement agencies, private sectors, enterprises, academia, civil society, foreign experts, foreign governments, foreign ministries, just about anybody who has a stake in the cyber ecosystem are the people who we tend to invite, because we have realized that internet is a global heritage, a global common of humanity at large. It began in the US, but now its focus has shifted totally to Asia. And now with India becoming the most populous nation in the world, having more than 140 crore of population. We are not just the biggest market in terms of cyber ecosystem, but also we are becoming a huge, shall I say, big heavyweight in terms of cyber issues. What India does decides what other people or other organizations or countries are likely to decide and go forward. So we have been evolving over different years. And this year, we decided to focus on one area which is occupying all our lives, which is rise of artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, and their impact. The idea is ever since 30th of November 2022, ever since ChatGPT got launched, our life has changed irreversibly. Everybody is using ChatGPT or any of its variants, whether it's a Google Bard or whether it's a Llama from Meta or whether it's a Perplexity. And today, in every profession, ChatGPT and the generative artificial intelligence is impacting everyone. Of course, it has got its own set of problems. Hallucination is a huge, huge problem because generative artificial intelligence likes to play the music that you would want to hear. And that's a problem. So a lot of times you may not necessarily get the correct and authentic information. So we decided to focus on the various aspects of artificial intelligence this year. So this is a conference where we begin on 29th of November with a formal inaugural ceremony that takes place. It's a physical conference. So the way it happened was the first 6 years were physical conferences in the real world. Thanks to COVID, for 3 years, we went into the virtual mode. And now back in 2023, in the 10th year, we've come back to the physical format. So we get an inaugural ceremony. The conference is going to be inaugurated by Honorable Mr. Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, the number 2 judge and the senior most judge in the Supreme Court of India. We will also be having speakers, including the Chairman Law Commission of India and other speakers and judges and judicial officers. Of particular relevance is the fact that Internet got invented in the year 1969, and the inventor of the Internet is Sir Windsurf. Sir Windsurf has been associated with this conference all these 10 years. Every year, he makes it a point to get time out of his schedule to address our conference. This year, he'll also be addressing the 10th edition of the conference. We will be having a formal inaugural, followed by evening dinner. But the real sessions start on 30th of November and 1st of December 2023. Now, typically, a lot of people only want to have some sessions, but the problem is cyberspace is so vast, so huge, that you cannot do justice by just having a couple of sessions. So we have, like every year, we've been deciding that let's have a couple of sessions simultaneously. This year also, we will be having a plenary track where the main sessions will take place in the plenary hall. We will also be having a parallel track where parallel sessions will take place. And number 3, on a third track, we have roundtables where we are organizing roundtables on cyber law, cybercrime, artificial intelligence. We've got 2 specific dedicated roundtables on the various thrust areas that are facing the government and the law enforcement agencies. We've got 2 roundtables for CISOs. These are roundtables where experts come in and exchange information about what they're currently doing, what are the practices they're following, what are the challenges, and how they need to move forward. And finally, at the end of the day, on the 1st of December, there'll be a formal valedictory session. It will be addressed by Justice Manmohan Sureen, the former Chief Justice of Jammu and Kashmir High Court, and Justice Anup Bambani from the Delhi High Court, a number of other global personalities who would be coming, including Professor Christoph Stackelberger from Geneva, who's considered the worldwide father figure on global ethics as concerned. We'll also be having Mr. Izumi Aizu, who's a distinguished professor from Japan. We'll be having Professor Sun Kun Ho from South Korea. We will be having representation from the Latin America, from Europe, from Africa, from Asia, and from Australia. So we've realized that let's try to get all of us together. So it's a very exciting journey. Why do we do this? Because everybody will ask us, why so many sessions? 3 days, 46 sessions. Why so much? Well, the answer is so many things are happening simultaneously that you would not really be able to do justice without really touching major areas. So like this year, we've got 6 sessions on artificial intelligence. We have sessions on blockchain, on crypto assets, on Internet of Things, on metaverse, on emerging technologies like quantum computing. We'll have specific sessions on cybercrime, the golden age of cybercrime, and sessions on cybersecurity, including the practical pain points that the government and the various stakeholders globally are facing in this regard. And we decided from the very first session of the conference, the first edition, that we will not be a talk shop. So we decided that every year we must come up with an outcome document. So each year, for the last 9 years, we have been coming up with an outcome document. We will also be having an outcome document this year, which will encapsulate the various recommendations that are going to be made by various speakers in different sessions. And once this outcome document gets ratified by the conference, the said outcome document then gets to be notified globally to all the governments of the world, all the cybersecurity ministries, the United Nations, its various agencies, the government of India and its various agencies, and every stakeholder who's working on the intersection of cyber law, cybercrime, and cybersecurity. So all said and done, it's been a very exciting journey, and we have deliberately tried to see that we can involve more stakeholders. This conference is being supported by the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, the Ministry of Law and Justice, Government of India. The United Nations has been supporting this conference all these years. So we have UNESCO, you have UNODC, and the United Nations University of Peace who are supporting this conference, apart from various international organizations. So more than 160 organizations are supporting this conference through their academic inputs, through their thought processes and vision. We will be having about 300 speakers over 3 days in this 3-day conference. And the idea is you would just come to the conference, come with a complete blank slate. and try to absorb as much as you can, because when the global leaders are working and talking, there's so much to learn. And once that we are busy in our day-to-day lives, there's so much happening which we are not aware of, including the misuse, abuse, and the dominant use of new emerging technologies. So thank you for giving us this opportunity to partner up with the Foreign Correspondent Club of South Asia. And I have with us our colleagues who would like, with your permission, sir, we'd like to ask. We have Mr. Harshdeep Marwa, who is one of the very predominant technology players, one of the industry thought leaders that we have. He has been speaking at the conference for the last many years. And we also have Mr. Sakshat Dugal, who is a TEDx speaker and has been working on artificial intelligence law and cybersecurity. And hopefully we should be joined by Mr. Alok Vijayant, who's a former director in the Defense Research Development Organization, or DRDO. All these people have been speaking at the conference. So let them share their perspectives of what they think as a conference. With that, with your permission, sir, can I request Mr. Harshdeep Marwa to give his perspectives?
Thanks, Dr. Pavan. Thanks, all the dignitaries on the dais. Okay, first of all, I think when we have to speak after Dr. Pavan Dugal, it is very difficult to share your thought because he covers it all. I've been associated with this conference since 2016-17. And I can tell you without any hesitation that this is perhaps one of the finest conference I have been associated with for multiple reasons. One is it's a very relevant conference. Way back in late 1990s, John Chambers, the CEO of Cisco Systems, said that internet is going to change the way we work, live, learn, and play. And perhaps a few more things have got added over the years, the way we will conduct our businesses also. And today is the time when we wake up, before we sleep, we are all connected, and we use various kind of applications, right from business to personal. And I think while this has happened, we've not been able to transition from what we call it as a so-called physical society to a cyber society. Today is the stage where we are all caught because of lack of awareness, and we keep hearing about cyber crimes day in and day out. Now, why this conference is very unique as far as I'm concerned, I think this is perhaps the only conference I have witnessed in the last 30 years of my stint in the industry. It gets researchers, the experts from the legal fraternity, people from the industry, cyber practitioners, some of the big names Pavan talked about, Sir Windsurf, and so many others. Now, when they all come in a single platform and deliberate, let me tell you, it is time when the people in cyber technology need to know about law. People in the legal fraternity need to know a little bit more about technology. And I can tell you, whom are we fighting against? We are fighting against the cyber criminals. And let me tell you, they know it all because this is their focused business. That's the only thing they've learned to do over a period of time. So bringing cyber security, cyber law, and cyber crime together itself is a very, very unique thing in this conference. And I don't know of any other conference which actually does that. The second thing is that cyber is not a subject which is limited to a country or a city. It is an international thing. And unless and until you have participation from the international stakeholders, perhaps any conference will be incomplete. We like to learn from some of the other countries what exactly they're doing, some of the other nodal agencies in the other countries, what are some of the good practices. And I think this conference has been able to do that every single year. And Dr. Pavan would know the real numbers, but what I remember last time prior to COVID, representation from more than 20 countries and very, very senior stakeholders who come and speak out the real things which are happening in their country jurisdictions. That is another unique factor. The third thing is that, the passion behind this conference is so unique. The entire world was, fighting COVID. Most of us didn't come out of our houses for a few months. But this conference was conducted with same amount of passion, The only difference was that this was conducted online. And let me tell you, we all are aware about the pandemic, but let me tell you, it created a bigger infodemic. And all the IT practitioners and the cybersecurity practitioners were scrambling to fight the might of the cyber criminals who capitalized on this issue and scared every bit. Uh, and the kind of mails which used to come, the kind of surge in the phishing attacks which happened was unprecedented. And during the time when these conferences happen and it basically addresses subjects like these, is unique in yet another way. Now, I personally feel that this conference is a super glue. It connects everyone together because today is a time when it is about cross sharing of information. Everybody's heard about darknet, and that is where all our cyber criminals collaborate. We've not been able to create a bright net, but this is perhaps one of the bright nets which Dr. Pavandugal Associates is creating, which brings everyone. And I can tell you, with the might of all the good guys, perhaps we'll be able to take the cyber criminals head on. So I personally feel that there are 3, 4 inflection points in the last 7 to 8 years. I remember in 2017, prior to 2017, we used to hear about a cyber breach. This particular organization got breached and they lost this much of data. Their work suffered. They have got into litigation because of compliance and stuff like that. In 2017, we saw what we call it as generation 5 of cyber risk. And that was large scale attacks. We all witnessed WannaCry. So that was one big thing that the cyber criminals have learned to standardize their tools, techniques, and procedures and not focusing on one industry. They're actually focusing on all the industries, and whether it is manufacturing or healthcare or hospitals or hospitality, whatever you have, you will all suffer. The second thing which happened obviously in 2020 was COVID. And let me tell you, I'm repeating myself that though we are aware of pandemic, we lost so many people, but it was quite a nightmare for the IT experts and the cyber practitioners to keep up to speed and at least run their organizations. So that was another inflection point. The next one came where obviously we've been seeing it on daily basis. Dr. Pavandugal did talk about artificial intelligence being used perhaps in the undesired way. But then the next one which we saw was Chat GPT. And, we know, what kind of initiative gets driven, perhaps in the right way and the wrong way. And I think yet another inflection point is we now have a law as far as data privacy and protection is concerned. And I think this is the first time in the last so many years I've been seeing that every single organization is talking about data-centric security. Up till now, we've been talking about all kinds of security which indirectly protects data. But now is the time when we have to see to it that data can self-protect itself. And there is a major mindset shift from that point of view. So I personally feel if somebody is the passion and wants to participate in a knowledge-led cyber domain, I think this conference is perhaps the conference to participate. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Marwa, for your perspectives. I also want to call upon my colleague Saksha Dugal, who is a TEDx speaker and who's been working on artificial intelligence law and cybersecurity. He's been addressing the conference for the last many years. Your perspective, Saksha.
Thank you, sir. And I think Mr. Harshdeep Marwa and Dr. Pavan Dugal have actually comprehensively, they have discussed about the conference. But if you ask me, what are the key points? Well, I feel in a conference, there are 3 points which every speaker or every audience member looks forward to. One is the topic. Generally, yes, we have different topics in different conferences, but the catch is there are 2 things. One, yes, that conference can give us knowledge, but the second thing is, am I related to that topic? That's the biggest question which an audience member asks, and that also motivates the speaker to speak about it. And as we all know, the beauty about cyber is that today it's a need. It's a need for all of us, whether you're using it for your personal uses or for your professional purposes. At the end of the day, we are in a cyber society, and now it's a need. Pre-COVID, yes, somewhere we could have argued that, yes, we don't need the cyberspace. But post-COVID, we have realized it's a massive need for us. So at the end of the day, whether you are a working professional, a student, a scholar, you will actually gain something or the other while attending this conference. Why? Because yes, sometimes being a scholar, you're working in certain domain, let's say IoT or dark web, but you gain new insights about topics like artificial intelligence or cybersecurity. A working professional, obviously, we are surrounded by the cyberspace in terms of opportunities that have increased, but as well as Mr. Harshdeep Marwa said, it was an infodemic. So in an infodemic, opportunities increased, but at the same time, crimes also increased. Things like phishing, which used to happen earlier as well, pre-COVID, but it spread to the masses. Now everyone knows what's a phishing attack, what's a cybercrime fraud. Why? Because they have increased. So at the end of the day, even if you feel that, okay, I may not gain something professionally out of this conference, cyberspace is impacting you and every single space of your life, whether it's your personal life or anything that can act as a, let's say, a general knowledge perspective for you. All of us today have either faced or have been a potential victim of a respective cyber attack, whether it's a phishing attack, a cybercrime fraud attack, let's say deep fakes are the new trend that have been coming up. So therefore, it can provide a massive knowledge center for you as well. Last but not the least, which is the most important, is I always say that generally as students of cyber or any field, we gain our knowledge through books, podcasts, YouTube videos, or some if you're lucky enough, then one-to-one mentoring sessions from experts. But at this space, I think it's a one-stop, one solution. Why? Because industry experts throughout the world were constantly working in different aspects of technology, whether artificial intelligence, data protection, cybersecurity, dark web, or anything else. Everyone is coming at one platform. That's one. Number two, sharing their expert insights. And number three, which is the most important, I feel, is as Dr. Pawan also said, that rather than being a talk show, one needs some practical perspectives, some practical points, some call to actions as a user, as a scholar, or as any person in the respective society. So some practical insights are always shared. We always have this outcome document that Dr. Dugal had mentioned, and that is, I feel, that's the most impressive part about this conference, because that acts as a Bible for you. A Bible as to what are the key trends, what can be done, and last but not the least, the most important is what kind of trends are coming up which are impacting you. Today, even if you're not from the technical or the cyber background, you can't say that I don't know what is AI and it's not impacting me. You have to know it's a need. And when it's a need, there is no ignorance in that respective factor. So if you agree or not, today we all need cyber. We have to be aware of it. And I think this conference plays a pivotal role in doing that. And I'm sure this year as well, we are looking forward to some interesting topics that will be discussed in this conference. Thank you.
बिल्कुल आज हमको बहुत हर्ष और उल्लास की भावना हम सब में अंदर है, क्योंकि आज हम एकत्रित हुए हैं एक ऐसी कॉन्फ्रेंस के बारे में बात करने के लिए जो भारत का नेतृत्व ग्लोबल लेवल पर प्रदर्शित कर रही है। भारत शुरू से ही साइबर इकोसिस्टम में एक लीडर रहा है, लेकिन धीरे धीरे हमने देखा है कि हर साल गुजरते समय के अनुसार जो टेक्नोलॉजीज हैं वो लगातार बदलती रही हैं। ये कॉन्फ्रेंस जो इंटरनेशनल कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑन साइबर लॉ, साइबर क्राइम और साइबर सुरक्षा की है, इसकी यात्रा प्रारंभ होती है 2014 में, और उस जमाने में केवल आधे दिन की कॉन्फ्रेंस होती थी, क्योंकि साइबर इंपॉर्टेंट था, बढ़ रहा था, लेकिन उतना भी ज्यादा महत्वपूर्ण नहीं था। लेकिन हम लोगों ने यात्रा प्रारंभ करी और उसके बाद हर साल ये दृढ़ संकल्प और निश्चय लिया कि साहब हम हर साल साइबर स्पेस में क्या क्या उभरती हुई टेक्नोलॉजीज हैं उसके बारे में हम आंकलन करेंगे, अध्ययन करेंगे, शोध करेंगे और साथ ही साथ विभिन्न प्रकार के स्टेक होल्डर्स को जोड़ने का प्रयास करेंगे। तो प्रत्येक वर्ष हम लोग ये अंतर्राष्ट्रीय कॉन्फ्रेंस करते आए हैं 2015, 2014 से लेकर 2023 तक। पहले 6 साल ये कॉन्फ्रेंस केवल हम लोगों ने फिजिकल वर्ल्ड में किया और दुनिया के कोने कोनों से हम लोगों ने जो इंटरनेशनल एक्सपर्ट्स हैं उन्हें आमंत्रित किया ताकि वो आए और अपना योगदान दें, और साथ ही साथ भारत का जो साइबर में नेतृत्व है उसका भी वो आंकलन कर सकें। फिर आया कोविड कोविड हम सबकी जिंदगी का एकमात्र ऐसा घटना स्थल हुआ जो शायद कभी भी हमारे लाइफ में वापस नहीं आने वाला। इसी कोविड ने एकमात्र तौर पर नए साइबर वर्ल्ड ऑर्डर का प्रारंभ कर दिया, और इसी कोविड युग के अंतर्गत हम लोगों ने 3 साल ये कॉन्फ्रेंस साइबर इकोसिस्टम में करी, यानी कि वर्चुअल करी। आज 9 साल के बाद 10वां साल जब हम इसका 10वां एडिशन बना रहे हैं इस अंतरराष्ट्रीय कॉन्फ्रेंस का, अब पुनः से हम फिजिकल कॉन्फ्रेंस कर रहे हैं। ये दुनिया भर की एक यूनिक कॉन्फ्रेंस है, इनफैक्ट एक सबसे अथॉरिटेटिव कॉन्फ्रेंस है। आप गूगल कर लीजिए, कुछ भी कर लीजिए, अगर आप पाएंगे तो आप पाएंगे इस तरह की कॉन्फ्रेंस पूरी दुनिया भर में कहीं नहीं होती, जो साइबर लॉ, साइबर क्राइम और साइबर सुरक्षा के अंतर्गत जो फैक्टर्स हैं और जो इंटरकनेक्शन है उसके ऊपर अध्ययन डालती है। इस बार इसलिए महत्वपूर्ण है क्योंकि 10 साल जब आप हो जाते हैं और आप कोई कॉन्फ्रेंस को एकत्रित कर ऑर्गेनाइज करते हैं, तब आपको आभास एक चीज का होता है, और वो आभास मुझे बहुत स्पष्ट है। मैं इस कॉन्फ्रेंस का कॉन्फ्रेंस डायरेक्टर तो जरूर हूं, लेकिन हर साल ये कॉन्फ्रेंस आकर मुझे एक चीज याद दिलाती है कि साहब आपको आज कुछ भी नहीं आता, और टेक्नोलॉजी इतनी जबरदस्त आज आपकी एक शिक्षक रह चुकी है कि हर समय बताती है कि अगर आपने अपने आप को, अपनी स्किल्स को आप अपग्रेड नहीं किया तो आप लगातार बिल्कुल इररिलेवेंट हो जाएंगे। तो इस साल हम लोगों ने जब ये 10वां एडिशन कर रहे हैं अंतरराष्ट्रीय कॉन्फ्रेंस ऑन साइबर लॉ, साइबर क्राइम और साइबर सुरक्षा को लेकर, तो हमने निर्णय लिया कि हम उस विषय पर, थ्रस्ट एरिया पर टारगेट करेंगे जो हम सब की जिंदगी का एक अहम हिस्सा है, और वो है आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस। हम लोग सब आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस की बात सुन रहे हैं, चैट जीपीटी आया है, उसका इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं और खेल रहे हैं, और साथ ही साथ देख रहे हैं कि हमारी आंखों के सामने इसी आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का दुरुपयोग हम सबके समक्ष आ चुका है। कुछ पिछले हफ्तों में डीप फेक के मुकदमे और केसेस बहुत आए हैं। ये नहीं कि आप कटरीना कैफ या खौजल रहेंगे तभी डीप फेक आपको प्रभावित करेगा। अगर आप जनता जनार्दन के भी सदस्य हैं तब भी आपको डीप फेक नकारात्मक रूप से प्रभावित कर सकता है। लेकिन किस साथ डील किया जाए उसको लेकर हम लोग इसमें सेशंस कर रहे हैं। इस बार हम लोग 3 दिन की कॉन्फ्रेंस कर रहे हैं, 29 नवंबर से लेकर 1 दिसंबर तक, और इस 3 दिनों के अंतराल में हम लोगों का प्रयास है कि 300 स्पीकर्स जो अंतरराष्ट्रीय एक्सपर्ट्स हैं साइबर लॉ में, साइबर क्राइम, साइबर सुरक्षा, आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, उन्हें हम एकत्रित करेंगे। उनकी जो उद्भव है, उनकी जो विजन है, उसके बारे में सुनेंगे, और साथ ही साथ उनके साथ अध्ययन कर शोध भी करेंगे और डिस्कस करेंगे कि साहब चीजें इवॉल्व कैसे हो रही हैं। एक बात स्पष्ट है, हम हिमालय तो जा नहीं सकते और हमें यहीं पर रहना है, तो टेक्नोलॉजी और इंटरनेट हम सबकी जिंदगी का अहम हिस्सा बन चुका है। लेकिन बिना सोचे समझे हम अक्सर साइबर क्राइम के शिकार हो जाते हैं। अगर अपने आसपास जितने भी आप परिवारजन या मित्रगण को देख लें तो आप पाएंगे कोई ना कोई व्यक्ति साइबर क्राइम का शिकार हो चुका है, और उसका कारण भी है कोविड-19 के बाद साइबर क्राइम का स्वर्णिम युग, गोल्डन एज ऑफ साइबर क्राइम प्रारंभ हो चुकी है, और ये बात स्पष्ट है कि ये गोल्ड हमारे साथ अगले कई दशकों तक रहने वाली है। इसलिए इस संदर्भ में अपने आप को किस प्रकार से उभरते हुए साइबर क्राइम से बचाया जाए उसको लेकर बहुत सारे सेशंस हैं। काफी सेशंस हमारे पास आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस और उसके दुरुपयोग को लेकर है, डीप फेक को लेकर है। साइबर सुरक्षा हमारी जिंदगी का अहम हिस्सा बन गया है। आज हम लोग सब ये डिवाइसेस इस्तेमाल तो कर रहे हैं, लेकिन हमें लगता है कि साहब हम यहाँ पर कुछ भी कर लें, साइबर सुरक्षा की जिम्मेवारी सरकार की है। कहीं ना कहीं इस मानसिकता को त्यागना पड़ेगा। क्यों? क्योंकि हम सब एक बहुत बड़े इकोसिस्टम की कड़ी हैं, और ये जो चेन है वो इतनी ही ज्यादा सशक्त, स्ट्रॉन्ग है जितनी की सबसे कमजोर कड़ी। लिहाजा दायित्व हम पर होता है कि हम चेन की सबसे कमजोर कड़ी ना बने। साथ ही साथ उभरती हुई जो नई टेक्नोलॉजीज हैं, चाहे वो ब्लॉकचेन हो, इंटरनेट ऑफ थिंग्स हो, क्वांटम कंप्यूटिंग हो, और विभिन्न प्रकार की नई उभरती हुई जो लोग सेशन रख रहे हैं, और अंततः इसमें हम कुछ ऐसे सेशन रख रहे हैं कि क्या क्या वास्तविक तौर पर चुनौतियां सरकार और इंटरप्राइजेज और कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर्स के सामने आ रही हैं। इस साल हम लोग कुछ राउंड टेबल्स भी कर रहे हैं, 2 राउंड टेबल्स कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि सरकार और सरकारी इकोसिस्टम और वहां पर विद्यमान जो साइबर सुरक्षा की चुनौतियां हैं या जो मोबाइल सुरक्षा की चुनौतियां हैं उनके साथ हम डिस्कशन करेंगे। लॉ एनफोर्समेंट एजेंसीज का एक सेपरेट राउंड टेबल कर रहे हैं। सीसोज यानी कि चीफ इंफॉर्मेशन सिक्योरिटी ऑफिसर्स के 2 राउंड टेबल्स कर रहे हैं। कोशिश ये है कि हम सीखें लोगों से, और इस बार हम 2 अलग वर्कशॉप्स कर रहे हैं। एक हम वर्कशॉप कर रहे हैं आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस और इमर्जिंग टेक्नोलॉजीज को, ताकि किसी को कुछ मालूम ही ना हो, वो केवल इस वर्कशॉप पर आ जाए 1 घंटा और वो अप टू डेट हो जाएगा कि आज क्या क्या चुनौतियां हो रही हैं जिनके समक्ष हमें रहना है। साथ ही साथ इस साल हम एक विशेष वर्कशॉप कर रहे हैं जो फोकस कर रहा है साइबर साइकोलॉजी को लेकर, यानी कि साइबर मानसिकता को लेकर। और यहाँ पर हमारी एक सहयोगी दिशा भी आई हुई हैं जो ये वर्कशॉप कंडक्ट करेंगी। यानी कि अभी तो हम साइबर की बात करते थे, अब साइबर साइकोलॉजी इतनी इंपॉर्टेंट हो गई है कि हमारी मानसिकता किस प्रकार से आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस या साइबर से प्रभावित होने वाली है और हमें कब अपने ऊपर नजर की हैं। ये कॉन्फ्रेंस आउटकम डॉक्यूमेंट कॉन्फ्रेंस को प्रस्तुत किया जाता है। पश्चात ये डॉक्यूमेंट पूरी दुनिया भर में हम जितनी भी सरकारें हैं, जितने भी साइबर सुरक्षा की मिनिस्ट्रीज हैं, मंत्रालय हैं, अलग अलग राष्ट्रों को उन्हें सर्कुलेट करते हैं, यूनाइटेड नेशंस और उसकी विभिन्न एजेंसीज को सर्कुलेट करते हैं, और केंद्रीय सरकार, राज्य सरकार जो भारत की अलग अलग राज्यों की है और सरकारी एजेंसीज के साथ भी सर्कुलेट करते हैं, ताकि साहब ये दुनिया भर की जो कोलेटेड विजडम है वो आपको रिकमेंडेशन दे रही है। अब आप निर्णय करने वाले हैं, आप खुद पॉलिसी मेकिंग डिसीजन बॉडीज हैं, अब आप निर्णय लीजिए कि आपको कौन सी चीज पर ज्यादा फोकस करना है या नहीं फोकस करना। तो कहीं ना कहीं मुझे लगता है हर साल जब मैं कॉन्फ्रेंस आयोजित करता हूं, मुझे हर साल ये कॉन्फ्रेंस आके हर दिन याद दिलाती है कि भाई तुम्हें कुछ नहीं पता। क्यों? क्योंकि पिछले साल जब कॉन्फ्रेंस करी थी और इस साल जब हम कॉन्फ्रेंस करना है, इतना तेज अंतराल से इतनी ज्यादा टेक्नोलॉजिकल डेवलपमेंट हो गई है कि अगर आप अपने आप को अपडेट नहीं करेंगे तो कहीं ना कहीं इरेलेवेंट रहेंगे। और कहीं ना कहीं एक जो कॉन्फ्रेंस है समन्वय और सामंजस्य भी स्थापित करती है विभिन्न प्रकार के स्टेक होल्डर्स के साथ, ताकि सब लोग आकर अपना योगदान दें। आज देखिए ये बात तो सुनिश्चित है कि अगर मानव मात्र के दृष्टिकोण से देखें तो एकमात्र कड़ी जो आज पूरे मानव मात्र को जोड़ती है वो है इंटरनेट। और अब आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस एक नई चुनौती आ गई है। एक कंपनी है जिसका नाम है ओपन एआई, जो चैट जीपीटी बनाती है। उसने इसी साल के मध्य में एक नया प्रोजेक्ट प्रारंभ किया है, उसका नाम है सुपर इंटेलिजेंस अलाइनमेंट प्रोजेक्ट। यानी कि वो कह रहे हैं कि साहब हमें 4 साल दीजिए, इन 4 साल में हम ऐसी आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस लेकर आएंगे, विकसित करेंगे जो ह्यूमन इंटेलिजेंस, इंसानी इंटेलिजेंस से बहुत ज्यादा आगे होगी। यानी कि अगले 4 सालों में ही आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस ह्यूमन इंटेलिजेंस को सरपास करने वाली है। तो अगर ये चुनौतियां हमारे सामने हैं, किस तरीके से आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस को रेगुलेट करने की आवश्यकता है आज के संदर्भ में। ऐसा ना हो कि हम आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस को डेवलप करते रहें और पता लगा वो मानव मात्र के इंटरेस्ट को ही नकारात्मक रूप से प्रभावित कर दे। आज चीन दुनिया का पहला राष्ट्र बन चुका है जिसने आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस पर एक नया कानून 15 अगस्त 2023 को पारित किया है। यूरोपियन यूनियन एक नया कानून आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस को लेकर आ गई है। न्यूयॉर्क सिटी जो है उन्होंने एक नया लॉ पास कर दिया है। तो दुनिया भर में काम बहुत हो रहा है। तो ये एक मौका है सब लोगों को एकत्रित करके उनसे सीखने का और ये समझने का कि आने वाले समय में आगे रास्ता क्या है। मुझे तो बहुत क्लियर है कि आज जब मैं खड़ा हूं 2023 में, तो आगे साइबर स्पेस में अगर मैं देखता हूं तो मुझे अंधकार नजर आता है, क्योंकि मुझे मालूम नहीं किस दिशा में कहां जाना है। इस प्रकार की कॉन्फ्रेंस एक रोशनी की मिसाल की तरह लेकर आती है और आपको रास्ता दिखाती है कि साहब इस तरीके से ब्रॉडली टेक्नोलॉजी विकसित होने वाली है। तो हम आभारी हैं तमाम सारे 160 अंतर्राष्ट्रीय ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को जिनका हमें सहयोग मिलता है प्रत्येक साल, इस साल भी मिल रहा है। केंद्रीय सरकार खासतौर पर मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स और इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी और मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ लॉ जस्टिस इसको सपोर्ट करते हैं। संयुक्त राष्ट्र और उसकी विभिन्न एजेंसीज इस कॉन्फ्रेंस को सपोर्ट करती हैं, जिसमें शामिल है यूनेस्को, UNODC एंड यूनाइटेड नेशंस यूनिवर्सिटी फॉर पीस। साथ ही साथ बहुत सारी अंतर्राष्ट्रीय ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को भी जोड़ा है। तो मुझे लगता है कि आप सबको हम आमंत्रित करते हैं। हम इस बार अपने आप को बहुत सौभाग्यशाली मानते हैं कि इस वर्ष हमारा हैंडशेक हुआ है फॉरेन कॉरेस्पोंडेंट क्लब ऑफ साउथ एशिया के साथ, और ये इस साल हमारे एकेडमिक पार्टनर हैं। और न केवल हम प्रेसिडेंट साहब श्री वेंकट नारायण साहब को हमें आमंत्रित किया है, वो हमारे बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण सेशन जो सोशल मीडिया और फेक न्यूज को लेकर है उसमें अपनी विचार व्यक्त करेंगे। साथ ही साथ हम तमाम सारे जो सदस्य लोग हैं FCC के, उन्हें भी आमंत्रित करेंगे। आप कृपया आइए, इन 40 सेशंस को देखिए और कुछ समझिए, रिक्वेस्ट और करूंगा बिल्कुल एक ब्लैंक सेट होकर आइए, क्योंकि जब आप बिल्कुल ब्लैंक होकर आएंगे तब आप पाएंगे कि इतनी सारी चीजें इतनी तेज रफ्तार से विकसित हो रही हैं, तो वो कहीं ना कहीं हम सबको इम्पैक्ट करेंगी। तो और अंततः हम ये आउटकम डॉक्यूमेंट के ऊपर रिलाई करेंगे जो इस साल आने वाला है। मुझे लगता है ये साइबर लॉ, साइबर क्राइम और साइबर सुरक्षा की जो थीम्स हैं आज ही तारसंगत या रेलेवेंट नहीं है, अगले 2 दशकों तक भी रहने वाली है। और आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस तो हम माने या ना माने हमारे हिस्से में आ चुका है। डीप फेक आपको, मुझे, हम सबको तंग करने वाला है। ये रामपुरी छुरी की तरह है जो चारों ओर हमारे ओर फैल रहा है, और हमारा दायित्व होगा कि हम अपने आप को इस डीप फेक रूपी रामपुरी चाकुओं से किस तरीके से बचाएं, कानून किस तरीके से लेकर आए, लोगों को क्या प्रकार की हम रेमेडीज प्रदान करें। मैं यहाँ पर इससे पहले कि आपकी इजाजत के साथ हमारे जो लेटेस्ट सहयोगी आए हैं श्री आलोक विजन जी, जो मुझे लगता है कि भारत के वन ऑफ द फाइनेस्ट साइबर माइंड्स हैं, वो आए हैं, उनसे भी उनके इनपुट्स मांगेंगे। लेकिन उनसे पहले 2 मिनट में दृश्य आपको आमंत्रित करूंगा। आप क्या 2 मिनट के लिए हमें बताएं कि जो साइबर साइकोलॉजी की आप वर्कशॉप कर रही हैं वो आप किस तरीके से कर रही हैं और इस कॉन्फ्रेंस में उसका महत्व क्या है। यू कैन टॉक इन इंग्लिश। खड़े हो गया, आ जाइए प्लीज कम टू द फ्लोर। television audience.
Okay, so when we talk about cyber psychology, it's a very newly emerging field, and many of us don't really know about it. If I ask in a room full
माइक चल रहा है?
माइक ये वाला शायद।
is it okay? Thank you. So when we talk about cyber psychology, it's a very newly emerging field. And many of us don't even know what exactly is cyber psychology, because we've heard of cyber law, cyber security, cyber crime, but not really about cyber psychology. And cyber psychology is basically the intersection between the human interaction that we have with technology and the cyberspace, and how it's affecting our behavior, our tendency, our actions, and how we really act according to it. So if I ask in a room full of people that what is cyber psychology, the awareness is not really there, and that is one of the reasons, one of the primary motives as to why we are having this session, this workshop in this wonderful conference. So in this workshop, we'll be getting to know about what exactly is cyber psychology, how it's impacting us and why we need to know about it, and further, what are the futuristic implications of cyber psychology. Because everybody in this room, or in general, anybody like should know about cyberspace and about AI, metaverse, and how it's going to impact us in the future. Similarly, cyber psychology is something that one must be aware of, because in order to really catch why a particular crime is taking place in the cyberspace, or why we act the way we do in the cyberspace, it's important to know the psyche of the individual. If we consider the case of cyberbullying, for example, here we need to know the psyche of the bully or the person who has committed such a crime, and at the same time, we also need to know what kind of psyche impact is the victim going through. The person who has committed a crime might be committing it for certain psychological reasons, that he lacks affection, he lacks power, or he lacks certain emotional needs in his life. But as a result of that, when he commits that crime, we are really unaware of the fact that what kind of impacts are there on the victim, on the psyche. The person might have long-term impacts, might have short-term impacts, but there is an impact universally. So that is about cyber psychology, and I really request all of you to be more vigilant about this field and further explore into it, because it's not going to be a very short-term emerging field, but it's going to help in the long term as AI and metaverse is also emerging. They are also going to impact into our psyche very much. So like we cyber educate people, we need to psycho educate people in intersection with the cyberspace, because the future is the AI, the future is the cyber world, and how we would be interacting with people would all based on the psychology of us. And if we are aware of the psychology, then there is a root cause that we can be aware of, and we can find out what particular interventions can also take place to help solve crimes, help solve what kind of crimes are taking place, and at the most, we would be able to live better and to the fullest effective use of technology, but in a healthy and a more effective and efficient way. So that is about cyber psychology, and I invite you all on the workshop that is going to take place on 1st December in this wonderful conference, and you will get to know more about cyber psychology, and it's a really insightful field as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Disha, for just giving us that brief. We now have joined by Mr. Alok Vijayant, who's one of the finest cyber brains the country has ever produced. He's done some extensive work in the Defense Research Development Organization, in the government of India, both from all angles that you can think of. And nobody better than him, who has been associated with our conference for the last 10 years. So your perspectives as to what do you think is the importance of this conference, and why people and why the ecosystem needs to come for the 10th edition of the conference. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to actually speak on the conference. Very memory actually goes back to 2006 when cyber was there, but we were not there in cyber. When you talk about the country as a whole, we were not there in cyber. Hacking was something like untouchables. You cannot touch them, you cannot talk to them. सरकार में होने के बावजूद, taking an initiative to talk to hackers, combine the hacking strength of this country, combine the strength of the cybersecurity researchers in this country together was a very, very difficult task. So when we go back those days, the first conference actually was held sometime in 2006. That was the first hackers conference that happened somewhere in Pune as Club Hack. That was the start and the beginning of an era of cybersecurity in this country. I know how difficult it is to actually augment resources together. We in India, we have the largest chunk of IT professional in the world. No other country in the world has got so many IT professionals that we have. In fact, 30% of the global businesses are being developed by Indians. We are there. Whether you call Microsoft or Google or anyone, we are there. In fact, the CEOs are all Indians. Now, why we are making this actual approach is because Dr. Pavan Duggal has been in this field and he's a pioneer in the field of cyber law, cybersecurity, and so on and so forth. He has been doing this conference the last 10 years. He has been inviting a lot of international participants, and with his goodwill, what he enjoys across the globe, he has been able to pull so many who's in the domain of cybersecurity to this country, and they have been attending this entire thing. Now, why there is a need of a press conference this time? In fact, I insisted that you should have a press conference this time is because the national reputation, when the global perception is made about your country, about India as a whole, such kind of conferences where there are global participation, they actually make a view about the country, that how serious you are towards cybersecurity. Dr. Duggal has already mentioned about the menace of cybercrime and all this offensive cybersecurity. Those kind of things are all there. Hacking your information infrastructure, to hacking individuals for personal gain, to sabotaging companies and so on. I mean, that's going to be there. So the only way to protect against it is cybersecurity protection. And also, one most important thing in this entire ecosystem is that you need to have the sense of belongingness or sense of togetherness. Today, if the community is not united together, you may have the largest number of IT professionals, but if they don't talk to each other, if they don't understand what is the requirement of this country or what is required for the country's, the legislatures, the executives, and the judiciary, it becomes very difficult for actually developing. Today, I remember around 20 years back when we used to talk about the brain drain, that IIT grads and MBA IIMs, they rush to the foreign country to gain greener pastures. Even the similar kind of brain drain is happening today, but it is in the digital domain now. Why I call it a digital brain drain is because today you may be working for an Indian company, but anything innovative that you want to give it out, that you are giving out to a foreigner. So that means you are doing a double employment today. If I get a unique idea, being in the government, if I get a unique idea, there's no bias for it here. So we need to develop such kind of an ecosystem here where there are indigenous buyers too. You cannot make products unless you have buyers with you. So if I generate some kind of a cybersecurity tool or apparatus, or even if I detect a vulnerability in a foreign product or something, I like to sell it in the global market because that gives me money. I don't like to sell it in within the government or within the entire ecosystem because there is no market for it. Everyone wants it free. The idea behind this conference is that we need to educate, we need to attract more and more people to come here and give out a perception about this country as we are very, very serious about cybersecurity. We are very serious, and we are one of the active and the active players in the domain of cybersecurity when it comes to any kind of development of the ecosystem or cutting edge technology or emerging technology is concerned. We are there. For that, we need to actually, because I call it, the pillars of our entire society is legislature, executive, judiciary, fourth state, the press, and also the cyber is another pillar which is going to augment all these things together. So we need the help of the fourth state to not only make it look that we are serious about cybersecurity, but also shape a global perception that cybersecurity is something which we are ingraining right in the very beginning with all our youngsters, whether it comes to cyber psychology, whether it comes to parenting, whether it comes to generating a very, very positive psyche about this entire cybersecurity framework. Today, I'm disturbed and pained to actually tell you that our youngsters, the next generation that we have, YouTuber generation, they learn everything from YouTube, and they are not in a position to actually segregate between what is right and what is wrong. So any YouTuber is a bigger a person who has got more following on YouTube is I would say he's a bigger hero than even most of the actual heroes. So that is the way, we need to literate the generations ahead with us. And also, we need to shape up a global perception. For that, we definitely need the help of the press to make this, because there are a lot. Dr. Duggal has been able to support this conference for so long, for 10 years. But trust me, without any sponsorship, without anything, he has been spending it just to make people aware about this entire thing, and make it a talkable subject, so that he's able to attract people and talk to them. But then this is time when everyone must come together and forward the cause which has been initiated by Dr. Duggal, and we should be a part of it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, everybody. It's wonderful that you have undertaken this task, and you've been doing it for 10 years. I wish you all success. Right now, what is bothering people, the average person in the country, is this deep fake. Began with Rashmika Mandana, then Kajol, and then today Alia Bhatt. Now, what does the average person do to prevent himself or herself from becoming victims of deep fakes or any of this cyberbullying, everybody is using mobile phones. How do we make our mobile phones foolproof and protect ourselves from,
Quickly answer and then give it to my distinguished experts. Today, we are all potential victims of deepfakes. Deepfake is going to impact us one way or the other. और अगर आप ये सोच रहे हैं कि deepfake आप पास कभी जिंदगी में आएगा नहीं, तो आप गलत सोच रहे हैं. So once you become a victim of deepfake, what do you do? 3-4 steps. Number 1, please don't be silent. You will have to report. अगर आप silent हो गए, तो आपने deepfake वाले को एक indication दे दिया, साहब मैं welcome हूँ, मुझे दोबारा victim बनाइए. Number 2, please report to the National Cybercrime portal, which is cybercrime.gov.in. There you have a specific category where you can report a deepfake video. Number 3, please go ahead and report to 1930, the National Cybercrime helpline. ये helpline है जो पुलिस अधिकारी मैन करते हैं, so that वहाँ पर भी जाकर आप उसे log in कर सकते हैं. Finally, be constantly alive and duly diligent. Don't be a part of the great Indian vomiting revolution. इंडिया में एक नई प्रकार की क्रांति है, भारत की उल्टी की क्रांति, जहां पर सब लोग उल्टी कर रहे हैं अपने डेटा की, चाहे वो पर्सनल डेटा हो, प्रोफेशनल डेटा हो, सोशल डेटा हो. Let's not be part of the great Indian vomiting revolution. Let's learn to share information on a need-to-know basis. Let's adopt cyber security and cyber resilience as part of our lives. These could be our practical points. But with that, over to my experts. First, Mr. Marwa, and then to Mr. Vijayan.
No, so, this deep fake and all, obviously we are witnessing quite a bit now, but fake news, deep fake, and all that has been going on for quite some time. Now, while we call ourselves as hyper-connected, I think this is the time to be hyper-connected. One is the technology angle. Now, technology only can do as much. For example, there have been so much in the news about government going and talking to social media, stating that we have to bring down that news virtually immediately. That's one and discipline in the whole thing. The other is how we conduct ourselves. We were just before this conference, we were speaking, and we were saying that one of the biggest issues today is that if we are not conducting ourselves with some amount of awareness and etiquettes, then I think we are going to land in this kind of a problem. The third is how do we use technology? Now, there is technology everywhere, and this technology is very simple. ये हर एक आदमी को समझ आती है. There are cyber criminals who are growing all across this world. We have something called as threat intelligence. जो IP एड्रेस होते हैं, malicious IP एड्रेस या URLs होते हैं, या हम इसमें TTPs बोलते हैं, tools, techniques, procedures. ये सारे जितने भी all the organizations which are called as threat intel organizations, they are updating themselves every day. New things happen. Now, if we subscribe to all this, whether it is as individuals, as businesses, as social media, in our day-to-day lives, things will get much better. So I'm saying that, and obviously we need to understand law. There are so many people I know that they shy away from even reporting these matters for so many days. They don't even confide in others, which is not the right thing to do. So I think as far as I'm concerned, I principally feel that technology can do only as much, but along with technology, it is the entire fraternity. Everyone as individual, businesses, social media, legal experts, all of us need to come together and typically fight so-called the undesired undesired side of cyber world.
Mr. Vijayant, your perspective?
Yeah, so the newer technology will actually enable such kind of thing quite a great deal. When you talk about deep web fakes, or even when you talk about deep fakes, or you talk about anything on dark web or deep web or anything, I mean, it's going to stay on. And as the artificial intelligence and machine learning and computer vision, of course, I mean, the more it matures, the more problem it's going to cause. But if you look at the inside of it, there are a lot of positives also of these technologies. Today, many of the things like object identification, computer vision, and machine learning, it's likely to reduce human effort. It's likely to reduce I would say discretions in decision making process. So it has got the hindsight also. But the problem is that we have given too much of credence to the social media. Perception has become the key to success today. If पहले जब हम बोलते थे ना कि दुनिया क्या बोलती है मुझे फर्क नहीं पड़ता, I'll go on. Now it's a very very different kind of a game where दुनिया क्या बोलती है उससे फर्क पड़ता है, मैं क्या करूं उससे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. So no, this kind of perception has actually led to such kind of thing. Otherwise, if somebody is mimicking me and trying to create a deep fake of me, if I'm not bothered about the world, I don't think it should trouble me at all. But then ultimately, the truth is that yes, we are all bothered about the perception. We are all bothered about the goodwill of the entire ecosystem where we work in. But so far as deepfakes are concerned, yes, reporting is one. You have to report if you feel concerned about it. You have to report. So then, by reporting, what will happen is deterrent kind of a framework will set in, where people will deter from doing such kind of thing. So that's the second one. And but again, my take is that it'll go further worse. It's not going to improve any further because the four pillars, again, I'm talking about the same four pillars. They all have to be equal in size. It's like a tripod, 4 pods, in fact. So one of the pod cannot be smaller or bigger. It has to be all together. It has to be all of the same size to make a complete balance. Today, what happens? The legislature is on a very, very different wicket. The executive is on a completely different wicket, and judiciary is on completely different track. So till the time they're all aligned together, this ecosystem is not going to set in. We can go on making laws, we can go on making regulations. You can go on making, within 6 hours you have to report an incident that happens on your information infrastructure. But the truth is that nobody has a time in the first 6 hours after their system failed to report to the concerned agencies who are going to do nothing about it. So, I mean, one has to be very, very, so that what I want to say is that legislation has to be in line with the execution framework. You say that you have to catch the criminal, but you have to understand that, what are the frameworks required to catch the criminal. Also, the conviction has to happen from the judiciary. The judiciary also has to be aligned with the executive and the legislature. So this is where such kind of a conference where we bring in all the three kinds of people together to streamline their thought process. I think that's the intention of this entire conference. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the idea is that bring them all together, sit and understand each other's problem in establishing a secure ecosystem for the country as a whole.
Check. Sir, I'm Piyush Pandey from TV9 Bharatvarsh. I'm editor of Science, Technology and Law. May I ask a question in Hindi because I need answer in Hindi. हाल ही में अभी अश्वनी वैष्णव जी ने एक बात कही थी कि डीप फेक लोकतंत्र के लिए बड़ा खतरा है. मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहता हूं कि ये जो कॉन्फ्रेंस होने वाली है, इस कॉन्फ्रेंस के जरिए जो सरकार नया लेजिस्लेशन लाने वाली है, जो प्रपोज्ड है, उसमें कितनी सहायता मिल सकती है सरकार को, क्योंकि उसकी आगामी बैठक भी 1 दिसंबर को ही है शाम को, और उम्मीद है कि जो लोग आएंगे वो जाहिर सी बात है जो आपकी रिकमेंडेशंस होंगी उनको शामिल किया जाएगा.
हमारा प्रयास है कि हम इस ज्वलंत समस्या की कुछ निवारण करने के लिए रिकमेंडेशंस और सजेशंस दें. केंद्र सरकार का अभी तो सही दिशा में सही कदम है, क्योंकि वो चाहती है कि डीप फेक का जो दुरुपयोग हो रहा है उसको रोका जा सके. लेकिन फिलहाल जो 2 बैठकें हुई हैं उसमें कहीं ना कहीं ये बात निकल कर आई है कि सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स और इंटरमीडियरीज को स्वयं कुछ काम करना पड़ेगा. आज क्या होता है कि अधिकांश सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स कहते हैं कि साहब हम तो बिचौलिया हैं, हम केवल एक तमाशबीन हैं, हम तमाशा देखेंगे, हम कुछ नहीं करेंगे. उसका कारण ये है कि सेक्शन 79 आईटी एक्ट कहता है कि अगर आपने कुछ दखलंदाजी करी तो आपका एडिटोरियल कंट्रोल हो जाएगा. तो लिहाजा जो सुरक्षा कवच कानून आपको प्रोवाइड कर रहा है वो आपसे छीन लिया जाएगा. लिहाजा अलग प्रकार की जो सर्विस प्रोवाइडर्स हैं फिलहाल इस दिशा में काम नहीं करना चाहते. सरकार के पास काफी सारे विकल्प हैं. एक विकल्प तो यह है कि हम सेक्शन 87 भारत की सूचना प्रौद्योगिकी कानून के तहत सरकार रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशंस ला सकते हैं. लेकिन हम इस पूरे कॉन्फ्रेंस में अलग अलग सेशंस में अलग अलग अंतर्राष्ट्रीय एक्सपर्ट से पूछेंगे कि भारत को क्या करना है इस डीप फेक की चुनौती को डील करने के लिए, क्योंकि हमारे यहाँ जो जमीनी हकीकतें हैं वो संपूर्णतः विभिन्न है अन्य राष्ट्रों की तुलना में. हमारे यहाँ अगर 140 करोड़ की जनसंख्या है और अगर हमने ठोस कदम नहीं उठाया तो ये 140 करोड़ की जनसंख्या एक एक्सपेरिमेंटेशन ग्राउंड बन जाएगी डीप फेक को लेकर, और वो इस तरीके से भारतीय समाज को नकारात्मक रूप से प्रभावित करेगा कि हम उसके अभी अनुमान भी नहीं लगा सकते. और ऑलरेडी भारतवर्ष आज चुनावी युग में पहुंच चुका है. अगले कुछ महीने में सिर्फ चुनाव होने वाले हैं. इस डीप फेक का ज्यादा प्रचलन भारतीय चुनाव में भी देखने का की संभावना नजर आएगी, क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं अगर आप चुनावी प्रकरण के जो नतीजे हैं उनको डीप फेक के माध्यम से परिवर्तित करने का प्रयास करेंगे तो कहीं ना कहीं छेड़खानी की जाएगी, न केवल भारत के लोकतंत्र के साथ साथ कहीं ना कहीं इस प्रकार की डीप फेक टेक्नोलॉजी भारत की प्रभुता, अखंडता और सुरक्षा को भी नकारात्मक रूप से प्रभावित कर सकती है. तो हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि जो विभिन्न सेशंस होंगे हम ठोस कॉन्क्रीट रिकमेंडेशंस केंद्रीय सरकार को देंगे कि साहब इस दिशा में अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर इंटरनेशनल एक्सपर्ट्स ये कर रहे हैं, हमारे नेशनल एक्सपर्ट्स ये कर रहे हैं, और हमारा ये रिकमेंडेशंस हैं कि आप ये कदम उठाएं. अब फिर अल्टीमेटली दायित्व सरकार का होगा कि वो कौन सी रिकमेंडेशन को उठाना चाहेगी और किस दिशा में जाना चाहेगी, लेकिन सरकार को काम करना पड़ेगा। क्यों? क्योंकि अब आवश्यकता है कि भारत को अभी डेडिकेटेड कानून की जरूरत है आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस को लेकर। आज हम एक यूनिक से इकोसिस्टम में बैठे हैं जहां पर भारत के पास ना तो कोई साइबर सुरक्षा संबंधी कानून है, ना ही कोई आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस को नियंत्रित करने के लिए कानून है, ना ही कोई डीप फेक को पूरी तरीके से रेगुलेट करने के लिए कानूनी प्रावधान मौजूद है। जो वर्तमान कानून है वो उसमें कुछ प्रावधान है, लेकिन वो बहुत ज्यादा कारगर नहीं है। और यहाँ तक कि अगर आप आईटी रूल्स 2021 पर भी नजर डालें तो वो डीप फेक को पूरी तरीके से रेगुलेट करने के लिए सक्षम और कारगर नहीं होने वाले। तो हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि हमारी अलग अलग सेशंस में ऐसी रिकमेंडेशन आएंगी जो हम केंद्रीय सरकार के साथ शेयर करेंगे डीप फेक की चुनौती को इफेक्टिवली भारत के संदर्भ में डील करने की दिशा में।
Pavan, for our global audience, say that in English, please.
Thank you, sir. We are saying that India is now facing a unique kind of a problem, which is the challenge thrown up by deepfakes. Deepfakes are not just impacting popular celebrities, actresses, but also political leaders. But then that's only the tip of the iceberg. The reality is that deepfake is going to come and bite each and every Indian in this 101.4 billion population of this most populous nation in the world. And that's the reason the government of India has its heart in the right direction. It's moving in the right direction with the right vision because it wants to go ahead and control the misuse and abuse of fake technologies for the purposes of targeting not just individuals, organizations, but even the nation at large. Already India is now in an election mode. There are so many elections coming in. It's now no longer just going to be attack on celebrities. It's going to potentially attack every individual who's a digital stakeholder. And the chances of the deepfake technology being misused in the electoral process of India, trying to make an impact or interference in the outcome of elections, could have a very kind of a important, significant impact in the coming times. And therefore, we need to understand the potentiality of deepfake technology to go ahead and impact the sovereignty, security, and integrity of India. So a lot of suggestions are going to be coming up in our dedicated sessions on deepfake in the conference. We would be collating them and sharing it there with the government of India. The government of India has already had a couple of meetings with the service providers, but it's very clear this menace of deepfakes has to stop. And hopefully, some of the recommendations that will be given by international experts and national experts in our various sessions will be collated and will be handed over to the government for appropriate action on the same. Thanks.
Thanks for sparing time and sharing your thoughts with us. May I now request our treasurer, Mr. P.M. Narayanan, to present these gifts to. Oh, you have a question? Yeah.
Not a question. Actually, I come here. My name is P.M. Narayan, work for German television. I come here as a just want to know a little more about the things, not for any reporting of them. Why? Because I've been reading a book about this surveillance capitalism by Shojana. So when I come out of my home in the morning, so everywhere I am leaving a digital footprint, from my mobile phone to metro. So my question to you, Mr. Dugal, is that our legal infrastructure is capable of giving a kind of protection for me as a citizen. You said it is very nasal right now. So what kind of protection as a citizen I can get from our system?
Thank you, sir, for this very incisive question. Every Indian has now become a global cyber actor because internet has transformed all of us into becoming global authors, global transmitters, and global broadcasters of data. And we are excelling in leaving behind our digital footprints at every moment. And the beauty is that most of the Indians are clueless of the digital footprints that they're leaving behind, which are going to be used by both state and non-state actors for the purposes of profiling you, for the purposes of potentially targeting you. Now, in India, we don't yet have a dedicated law on privacy. Although the Supreme Court of India, in the landmark judgment of Justice Puttaswamy versus Union of India, has categorically held that the right to privacy is a part of my fundamental right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution of India. But despite all that, we still don't have a privacy law. So at best, your only protections that are currently available are under the Information Technology Act 2000 and under some of the rules that are made thereunder. But today, when you are being surveilled upon, the law says you can only be surveilled upon in accordance with procedure established by law, which is given under Section 69 of the Information Technology Act 2000. And the government has been given the power to surveil or monitor the activities of any digital stakeholders under certain given stipulated circumstances in the interest of sovereignty, security, integrity of India, friendly relations with other nations, public order, decency, morality, or to prevent the commission of any cognizable offense. But despite all that, there are a lot of non-state actors who are profiling you all the time. Because as Indians, you are going ahead and downloading all kinds of mobile apps without even reading to the terms and conditions and giving all kinds of permissions. I'll give you an example. If you're in Android and you want to download the Torch app seeks your permission to access your contacts, which has got no connection with the Torch application. But they do so because you are the guinea pig. When everything is being offered to you in terms of world-class service, then the concerned person becomes the product. And that's what's currently happening. And most of these service providers are located outside the territorial boundaries of India. So having them to be subject to the Indian cyber law, being the Information Technology Act 2000, continues to be a problem, despite the fact that the legislature has provided for extraterritorial applicability of the provisions of the Indian cyber law. So I think till such time a dedicated legislation comes in, we will have to be consciously careful to be custodians of our own privacy. Yes, we have hardly any privacy today because right from the time when I go to a restaurant or I go to this, they want your phone number for the purposes of making an order or for the purposes of ordering anything.
I just wanted to ask you very precisely because if I go to a society,
So can we
for example, if I need to go and meet some apartment, and there is a go get some kind of app, which take my phone number and they take my photograph also. I mean, can I challenge this report? Because I don't know what kind of, I mean, this is linked to the societies, secretaries, I mean, power. You can go to any of these societies in Malaysia, Supreme Court. So they will take your photograph, they will take your number, everything. So as a citizen, do you have any right?
As a citizen, you have got a phenomenal right. And the right is to say a no. Why? Because now from 11th of August 2023, the government of India has already passed and notified the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. This is for the first time. This law is empowering all of us as data principals because we are the owners of our own data. Now, till such time, any person who wants to collect our data gives us a notice saying we want to collect your data for this particular purpose, give me your consent. And till such time, I don't give my consent to the said service provider, they cannot legally deal with my data. And if they do deal with that, they can be saddled with fines up to 250 crore rupees per contravention under the new DPDP Act. So that's a huge quantum leap forward. But then the awareness levels about this law are very, very low. And most of the people say, I'm a common person. What happens if I give my photo or my phone number? But it's not just your photo. I'm just giving you an example. A lot of Indians are routinely handing photocopies of their Aadhaar numbers, whether to a telecom service provider for getting a duplicate SIM or whether it's to the bank or someone else, without realizing that your Aadhaar is no normal information. It's connected with your biometrics, the iris of your eye, the scan of your thumb. And in case if that gets compromised, under the Aadhaar Act 2016, you have no remedies. So therefore, Indians have to be sensitized that under the law, they have now been given appropriate protection in terms of protecting your data. But if you voluntarily go ahead and share all information, you cut all your hands and put it on the tray for the service provider, then the law does not come to your particular rescue. So if you are going to any of these societies and they're asking for this application, please object to them. Tell them otherwise they should be liable to pay 250 crore rupees. And they will immediately just take back and say, sorry, sir, you can go in. So you will have to just assert your right to protect your personal privacy and your data privacy. We'll have to create more awareness about this Digital Personal Data Protection Act. वरना अगर हम कुछ नहीं करेंगे तो हमारी जो निजता है वो तो संपूर्ण तौर से उड़ के लुप्त हो जाएगी और उसके बाद हम कुछ कर भी नहीं पाएंगे। अगर मेरा आज आधार का डेटा कहीं ना कहीं लीक हो जाता है तो आजीवन के लिए मेरी समस्या है। क्यों? क्योंकि मैं दूसरा आधार ले नहीं सकता, तो उसके साथ मेरे बायोमेट्रिक्स जुड़ा हुआ है। तीसरी बात, उसका दुरुपयोग कर कोई साइबर क्रिमिनल मुझे झांसे में डाल देगा, मुझे कानूनी समस्याएं में डाल देगा। So हमें सब जागरूक होना पड़ेगा. We'll have to be consciously careful, be duly diligent when we are dealing with our sensitive personal data, whether it's data pertaining to us, our banking information, credit card details, bank details, health details, our sexual orientation details. All of this we must be very, very clear, and we must say an emphatic no. We are not giving. And as a thumb rule, it's a great idea never to share your Aadhaar with third parties, because you don't know after you've shared your Aadhaar how many other people are going to use the same Aadhaar photocopy for the purposes of issuance of duplicate SIMs or it being potentially misused. So we all have to be learned to be very careful, and the law is definitely in your side and on your direction. Thanks.
May I now invite Simran to propose a vote of thanks.
All of us here at FCC are very happy to associate with Dr. Duggal and his colleagues for this upcoming conference. And as we have discussed, this is a very important conference which will discuss various issues of cybersecurity, cyber law, and related issues. This press conference has also been streamed live on the Twitter and the Facebook pages of FCC, and it will be saved in the archives section. So if anyone wants to go and listen to it once again, it will be available in the archives. And once again, we wish you the best for the upcoming conference. And a big thank you for coming here and being a part of the discussion today. Thank you.
May I now invite PM Narayanan to give these mementos to our 5 distinguished speakers.